With a buffet of deliciously diverse terminology, the previous chapter showed that you, the real you, are not human. You have a human body, which you wear like clothes and inhabit like a car. But you, the real you, are the consciousness, not its ever-changing outfit or vehicle. The figurative clothing that is your body is one day vibrantly young, then later worn and wrinkly. But yet there is a more static consciousness, you, that is shared between those different outfits, the young body and the aged body. The human creature may or may not really exist, but the real you, conscious and inhuman as you are, definitely does exist in the most absolutely real sense. You not only remain if you wake up in a slightly older body, but so too if you wake up as a non-human alien having had a crazy dream, or as the opening question asks, woke up in my body as the human I see in the mirror. With that reiterated, let's put aside the extreme philosophical skepticism and speak with a little more everyday practicality, where we treat questions of existence or reality as relative to this empirically observed world, without regard to the possibility that it may be a dream or matrix, with its made-up constructs of Newtonian-like time and space, with its imaginarily solid objects, from the big to the point-like, in which we faithfully can say humans do seem to exist and unicorns do not, at least according to current empirical evidence. In this relative world of constructs, what are you, really? What defines the real you? That which defines a thing, meaning that which is true about it by definition, cannot change over the lifespan of that thing. If a bachelor gets married, he is no longer a bachelor, because being unmarried is a defining characteristic of bachelorhood. If a planet evaporates and no longer has mass, it is no longer a planet, assuming having mass is a defining characteristic of being a planet. Thus, this can be called defining traits. What doesn't define a thing can change over the course of that thing's existence or lifespan, without the thing itself being considered destroyed. A bachelor can get a haircut and still be a bachelor. A planet's climate can become colder, starting an ice age, and it is still a planet. The tree in my backyard can grow bigger or smaller, and it would still be the tree in my backyard. These traits are called non-defining traits. These are things that may happen to be true about a thing at a certain time, but don't ever define it, and thus can change and are never necessarily true about it. The bachelor may have hair, and that hair may have color, but those are not defining traits of bachelorhood. Being unmarried is a defining trait of bachelorhood. Another set of terminology some philosophers use to discuss this idea of defining traits versus changeable, non-defining traits is to speak of what may or may not be synthetically or accidentally true about something versus what is analytically or necessarily true about it. That is, true by definition. In this sense, synthetic truths, the bachelor over there is engaged to marry, may or may not be true, and the truth of such a synthetic statement can change over time, depending on how the relationship between the synthesized components changes. In the given example, the synthesized components are primarily 1. The bachelor, 2. Mary, and 3. A time. In contrast, analytic truths are true by definition. That is, the bachelor is unmarried. 2 plus 2 equals 4. And are thus true eternally. A defining trait is necessarily always true about something by definition, not just always within time, but also in the deeper sense of timelessness, meaning also outside of time, such as in some Platonic-like eternal world of forms, not to suggest such a place literally exists. So what defines you, the real you? In other words, what qualities must something have for that thing to be you? What limited set of traits about the current synthetic creature reading this book is the real you? Which are merely changeable traits of the ever-changing meat suit you wear like figurative clothing? What can be taken away and destroyed without destroying you, the real you? What could be destroyed or cease to exist, but you would still exist? For instance, your socks or wristwatch don't define you, the real you, because you could take those off, throw them in a fire, and you would still exist and be you, the real you. Assuming you existed a year ago and still exist today, what unchanging constants existed then and remain now that define you? What would need to exist 10 years from now for you to say that you, the real you, still exist at that time? Your hair? No. Your pinky finger? No. Those could be destroyed or replaced, and you would still remain. That process of elimination can be helpful. So let's run through a nice, long, pretty list of all the things you are not. You are not your literal clothes. You may look in the mirror one day and see a blue shirt, and look in the mirror the next day and see a red shirt. You can take off your shirt. You can take your shirt off right now and burn it. Destroying your shirt does not destroy you, the real you. The shirt would be gone, but you, the real you, would still be there. Your literal clothes or your wardrobe as a whole may be a big or small part of your changeable egoic self, which we can alternatively call your false self. Indeed, for some humans, their literal outfits represent a huge part of their ego. Insofar as the outfit is easily stripped, it can represent an especially sensitive part of a sensitive ego. For example, consider when Gordon Ramsay dramatically yells, "Take off your jacket," in his reality show Hell's Kitchen. In another example, consider a new police officer who, after working hard to earn his job, understandably walks around wearing his badge and uniform with so much egoic pride. But one day he finds through misfortune that he may lose his job and his uniform unless he lies under oath or commits some other deceitful and harmful act that under more normal circumstances he would not commit. To lose his badge and uniform may feel like losing himself. At least that is to the degree he falsely identifies with or possessively clings to that egoic role of uniformed police officer, a temporary pseudo-identity.